Welcome to Between the Sheets, the non-judgmental podcast where we're going to cover various sexual health and wellness topics. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Zwonitzer. I'm a urology and sexual health nurse practitioner, and I love helping my patients and listeners discover and develop their most satisfying sexual experiences. Between the Sheets is here to normalize the conversations about sexual health and cover everything from basic anatomy to the most taboo topics and everything in between. Real talk, real pleasure, one episode at a time. So come on, let's get between the sheets. This episode is sponsored by Boston Scientific and its educational website on erectile dysfunction, edcure.com. One study estimated that more than 50% of men over the age of 40 have some degree of erectile dysfunction, which can be frustrating and confusing. Go to edcure.com to find information on erectile dysfunction and treatment options, including long-term treatment options offered by Boston Scientific. Boston Scientific does not endorse any statements or opinions expressed during this episode. Welcome back to Between the Sheets. I am having a great day and hope you are as well. I have a wonderful guest here, Alicia Pearson. We actually met through someone I used to go to high school with, so that was kind of an exciting connection there. Alicia is a clinical researcher. She is also the mayor of Lanesboro, Minnesota, so very exciting there. We're going to talk about research and women in research and how to get a good diagnosis and where the lacking has been for many years. So I'm kind of excited about this discussion because it's not talked about enough, the lack of women in research.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the invite. And
Yes.
I think you're absolutely right. It's not talked about enough, which is always associated with shame. Anything that is seen as shameful gets kind of pushed to the
Yes.
background and often causes way more problems than it tries to correct.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think, there is so much shame around sex in general and talking about sex in our society, which is just terrible because we need to know about it. We need to have conversations and to have that comfort level. So then there's even more shame when you think something's wrong with you and you don't even want to admit it. I mean, I have, we'll focus more on women today, but in my practice with men, as a urologist, like they don't want to come in and tell me about their erectile dysfunction. And they have tried all the over the counter things and whatever because there's so much shame with that. And same with my women patients who come in and they are really don't even want to have sex with their partner anymore, but they are so ashamed of their pain and their dryness and things like that, that they don't even talk to their own partner about it, let alone go and get help for it. So it's definitely not only a problem for going and getting diagnosed with things, but just being able to start that conversation with your own partner.
Yes, I think being able to start it with your own partner or with your friends or even with yourself. Like when
Hmm.
shame is associated, people aren't even kind of checking in. A lot of people don't know what their own vagina looks like or
Right.
what it normally feels like. They've never asked their partner, "Hey, does this feel the same? Like, are things a little bit weird?" They would never even consider asking something like
Right.
that. And because of those delays, if something is wrong, you're just adding time before you actually are diagnosed. And then that's more
Hmm.
time before you can be treated. And I think you really touched on the over the counter stuff, some of which is legit, but much of which is not. People are trying absolutely anything they can get their hands on to avoid having those hard conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's scary because then they're making some choices that are not good. I just had a patient tell me today, and I have to research this because I haven't researched it yet. But she told me there was a group of men in a nursing home that were using caulk in their urethras to give themselves an erection because they weren't getting erections and they ended up all having to go to the emergency room. So, like, I have to do my research into that to figure out what happened to them and whatever. But please don't
Yes.
do that. That's not okay.
Right. I know. And it's tricky because I think that there is a very fair mistrust with the healthcare community.
Yeah.
People have been ignored, people have been taken advantage of. A lot of companies do put profit over people. And that's not a reason to believe everything you hear from someone who's not a licensed professional. I see it all the time in my Facebook groups and stuff like that where people are like, "Oh, I'm having this issue." And someone's like, "Well,
Hmm.
just stick a clove of garlic up there. Just do yogurt up there." I mean, that's fight bad bacteria with good bacteria. It's like, yeah, maybe in some instances, or, or maybe you just made it 10 times worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And, it's frustrating because that shame piece is there, but it's also frustrating as a medical provider that we weren't taught a lot of stuff. We weren't
Right,
taught to talk to people about their hormones. We weren't even taught about hormones really. And that's a huge part of women's and men's health, especially sexual health.
right,
And not to get confused, the testosterone, the estrogen, and the progesterone, those quote unquote sex hormones do way more than just help us be sexy and have kids.
right.
They're involved in so many processes, but that's a talk for another day. The lack of education for those of us that are in these situations, and then people don't want to talk to us about it anyways. And so we just kind of like, well, if you're not going to bring it up, I'm not going to talk to you about it because we weren't really taught about much of it anyway. It's like, that's so wrong.
Right.
Like, I personally seek out like extra education on these things. I go to sex conferences, I do all these other things because it is so important to our overall personal health, but also our relational health, our longevity, all of these things that we have good sex lives. And the
Yes.
bottom line is we got to talk about it.
And we have to have practice talking about it to
Hmm.
talk about it more. I think to your point, like if providers weren't really taught how to broach these quote sensitive topics, then if this patient's not going to do it,
Hmm.
it kind of just gets brushed to the side. We
Yeah.
shouldn't have a problem, especially in a medical institution, going like, "Are you having any problems with your sex life?"
Huh?
And even maybe pushing past that first, "No, everything's okay," listing some things that might be more common so that people can have something to latch on to. Because
Yeah.
I think one part of that shame factor is that because people won't research it themselves or ask their friends because it hasn't been talked about, they start to think, "This is just me. I'm the only person
Hmm.
that has this problem. It's my fault. It's just me. I can't satisfy my partner. I can't get wet to have sex. I can't do all of these things, which are super, super normal." And it would be
Right.
such a relief for them to know that if they could even just get to asking the right questions.
Yeah. It's funny because in my exam rooms, a lot of times my females will open up more towards me, but sometimes it's a little bit more to get the guys to tell me things. And so I literally have erection posters up in my room so that they can literally just point at it and say, can we talk about that? And then I
Right.
can divulge the questions. But there are other urologists that I work with in my office that refer their patients to me for sexual needs because they aren't comfortable broaching those topics. And then there's some of us that are. And so I'm grateful. Everybody has their thing. I don't really like kidney stones, but somebody else in
Right.
my office does, right? So like I'll take the sex stuff. But it is interesting how it's like you really do have to learn good verbiage, get that good rapport. And even just with doing this podcast, I used to always ask my guys like, do you get erections? Anything going on with your erections? No? Okay, we move on. And I've
Right.
learned to also ask about their orgasms because erections and orgasms
Mm.
are two different things. And then for
Right.
women, do you have enough lubricant? Do you have enough moisture? Do you achieve orgasm? How do you achieve orgasm? And those things,
Right.
because there are so many different levels of sexual dysfunction.
Yes. Yes. I think there are so many different levels, and people don't know what to be concerned about. Like, how do they know what is abnormal if they don't even know what normal is? And we've seen that, especially I don't work in oncology anymore, not primarily, but when I was mainly in oncology research, we would see all the time prostate cancer that had really
Mhm.
gotten further than it needed to because the man just didn't want to come. And it was usually his
Yeah.
partner that was forcing him to come to the office to find out he's stage 3 or stage 4, when if he would have come to get the colonoscopy he was supposed
Yeah.
to get, if he would have come to when he first started, having problems going to the bathroom and all that other stuff, maybe we could have
Mhm.
stopped it. Maybe, research or some last minute treatment wouldn't have been the only solution.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely come talk to us as soon as possible, especially when we advertise that we do sex med, like we do. We love it. We're very comfortable talking about it. You will not tell me something that I have not heard. And if
Right.
you do, I will probably high five you because you just opened my mind to something new. Like I will be excited if you tell me something I haven't heard before. Like that will make my day. And you'll probably end up on the podcast.
And I mean, what an honor to be able to be trusted with that kind of information from people.
Yeah.
I think that's been such a humbling experience for me is to watch people be able to open up a little bit more with each interaction,
Yeah.
and to see how that plays out with the rest of their family. Because
Yeah.
it just takes one person to decide that, like, it's going to stop with me. Actually, this shame. I'm going to do my best to make sure that my kids or my wife or my whatever doesn't
Yeah.
have to feel this way again. And if we
Yeah.
were all moving just a little bit towards that, what would the world be like?
Yeah. Yeah, and it would be amazing. I mean, just the conversations, the comfort level, all of that that could happen is just it's vast. And so, yeah, I'm a huge proponent of getting these conversations out there and really getting the shame like put to bed because
Yes.
it's not necessary.
Yes.
Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier about like women not even knowing what their vaginas and their vulvas look
Yes.
like. And one of the practices that I do with my ladies is I will tell them, take a hand mirror
Yes.
and look on a day where you feel good and look on a day where you feel bad and all these things so that you know what your normal is. And then when
Yes.
something is off, you can look and say, hey, that labia does look a little swollen. That's not how it usually looks. Or I
Right.
have this different discharge than I normally have, or whatever. And that way, when you
Yes.
come to see me, you can say, usually I'm X, Y, and Z, and today I'm ABC. Help me.
Right.
And I'll figure out
Right.
the rest of it, but tell me what's going on.
Yes. And if you don't get there before things are bad, you're gonna have to. Because I'm
Yeah.
sure you see once you've got a big problem, you come in, it's too late. We're asking you those questions, 3 times a week. You're having to put it in your PROs, your participant reported outcomes and surveys and talk to, this could have been avoided. It could have been just you and your
Yeah.
primary care doctor or your urologist. So a
Yeah.
lot of times I think people think they're saving themselves the embarrassment, and
Hmm.
if we just set aside that this should nothing about the way that your body functions should be an embarrassment,
Hmm.
it's gonna be worse if you end up having to have a major surgery, if you end up having to have all of these images taken and all of these different procedures. That's a far worse outcome than
Yes.
just knowing what you look like and what's abnormal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that earlier you said ask your partner. I mean, that it's
Yeah.
such a huge thing. If something doesn't right, your partner should know what you look like on all
Right.
parts. And if they
Right.
don't, turn the freaking lights on, man.
Right. Exactly. Please. I think you should do it with the lights on every now and then anyway, just to make
Yes.
sure.
Yes. Adds
I
a little
mean,
something.
right. And they're feeling you in ways that other people aren't. They probably do
Yeah.
notice when things are a little bit different. So having that
Hmm.
open line of communication could be really helpful because there's some things you might not have even noticed if you're not in touch with yourself
Hmm.
that they can literally feel is different.
Yeah. I mean, how many partners do we know have found breast cancer in in their partner because they were feeling them up,
Yes,
and they're like, hey,
exactly.
wait, that doesn't feel the same as the last time I groped you. Like,
Right. Right.
Yeah. I mean, because it's funny. Some people will be like, some of my guys, when I do their rectal exams to check their prostate, they'll be like, did it feel the same as last year? And like, I haven't documented how it felt last year, but to be
Right.
honest, I feel multiple rectums a day.
Right.
So to remember exactly what yours felt last year, I'm not going to. But like,
Right.
if you have a partner who is doing your breast exams, grabbing your balls, playing with your vagina,
Yeah.
different things like that,
Yeah.
they are going to know more regularly if something's off. And you should know that too. And that should be an open conversation without any shame. Hey, baby, when I was down there today, I felt this. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
this is your normal or not. I don't remember it from before, but like, let's talk about it. Like, let's make sure you're okay. There should be nothing wrong with saying that.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it's even an added benefit to fooling around or,
Mhm.
like, hey,
Yeah,
this is for our own good. This is for our
right.
joint health. If you just let
That's
me
correct.
get a fill in real quick,
Yeah, yeah,
you
absolutely,
might get more
absolutely.
out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I love that. So tell me about clinical research because I'm super excited. I haven't had a researcher on here yet. And so, how did you get into research and kind of tell me that story? And then we'll talk more about sexual health with research.
For sure. So I got into clinical research because I was looking for a stepping stone that would look good on a medical school application. I always wanted to be a doctor, and
Okay.
so that's kind of how I found it, and I was at UNCW, so, University of North Carolina, and my internship was at Camp Lejeune, so a Marine Corps base
Okay.
with their concussion recovery center,
Ooh,
and I
interesting.
I know. And so it was a lot of, like, PTSD and
Mhm.
MTBI and doing investigator-led research, which at the
Okay.
time I didn't realize was so rare.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of those once you get out into the industry. But
Mhm.
I really fell in love with what it was doing for people, not just the treatments themselves, but just watching the difference from when someone comes in and when they leave, having been
Mhm.
able to kind of discuss everything that is going on with them was
Mhm.
really kind of revolutionary for me. And so I thought, well, maybe I could do research a little bit longer. And so I got on with right out of college with my degree. I'd had my degree not even in the mail yet. I got a job as a clinical research coordinator for a group of cancer centers in rural Kentucky,
Okay.
which was amazing because there was no way else for people to get research unless they were going to
Mm.
drive 2, 3, 5 hours to go
Okay.
to a major university. So we were really like the lifeblood of the local community when it came to oncology treatment. So that was
Mm.
really exciting. What was a little bit less exciting was that when I got there, they were like 2 years behind on their data entry.
Mm.
Their
Oh.
sponsors, which are the people who, like, pay for research, were
Yeah.
pissed. They
Yeah.
were, like, threatening it, and it was like they're like, "We might not even keep this research program." And so
Gosh.
I got in there. I was fresh out, so I had a ton of energy, and I cleared up their data backlog in, like, a month, reestablished all those relationships, and did such a good job that they promoted me to director of clinical research. So
Amazing.
my resume goes Sonic Drive-In, Chili's,
Huh.
director of clinical research.
That's great. Just a
It's
little
pretty
you
great.
skipped a few steps in there, but I love that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that for me too, because it really set me up to do some really cool things. And the rest has really been history. I went to Texas. We're also a military family, so we
Okay.
were all over the United States. So I had to change jobs like every 2 years.
Mhm.
And so I managed a group of oncology centers in Texas for Texas Oncology. And then I started working for a tech startup. And then I got to my current company, which is Evidation Health, which is a biotech company that works in research. And I've been there for 4 years. And it is so much less stressful than working in an oncology clinic. It really helps me out because it still is a startup, like a tech startup, so people are just kind
Yeah.
of always freaked out, and I'm not freaked out because it's not that serious. It cannot possibly be as serious as
Yeah.
the work that I used to do. So I'm just
Right.
chilling, and they're, like, very pressed all the time. But working in the decentralized space has been so cool because it really helps
Yeah.
remove all those barriers to research participation that I saw again and again and again while I was in clinic. So we can
Yeah.
send blood tests right to you. You can do your surveys right from your
Hmm.
phone. We can hop on a virtual visit to do your office visit. All of that can be done from almost anywhere in the United States. And that
Very
means
cool.
that we have much more diverse clinical trials, which makes me super excited. And
Yeah.
I know I've
That's
said a lot of stuff, but
amazing.
and something that makes me really excited also is that I'm seeing so many more women in clinical research
Mm.
lately,
Yeah.
and it's not always been that way. And so now I have almost
Right.
too many women. I'm like, "Oh, I need a couple more guys to join the platform so that we can have a more balanced trial," but it's a really
Right.
good problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it up until the 90s that women were not even required to be in research?
Yes, everything
Yeah.
most of the things
I
and
mean, like
think about how
that's in my
soon that was.
lifetime.
Yes, exactly, and things like Tylenol and all that stuff existed already, like and it was only
Right.
tested on probably white, middle-aged men, period,
Right. And
and
women
they
were just visualized as small men, essentially, in
yes,
research.
exactly, and then curious as why
It's
things weren't
insane.
working correctly on us, and it really
Go
also fed into
figure.
the yeah, I know, huh, strange. It really
Yeah.
fed into that trope too that women kind of overreact, we're hysterical. Well, this
Mhm.
worked for him, why isn't it working for you? Well, because our bodies are
Right.
different. Duh.
Right.
And
Yeah,
we
I
see the
mean,
same
biology is
problem.
pretty amazing.
It's huge. It's a huge difference.
It is.
And not just
Right.
that, but like diversity in general, because especially when we
Mhm.
talk about talk about anything, but especially some of these like medical technologies, just testing those on white
Mhm.
people is crazy, especially if they have sensors or something
Right.
like that. You've got to get it on all skin types or it's just not going to work.
Yes.
And that is
Yes.
for all
Absolutely. That
races.
makes so much
Yeah.
sense.
And some things I didn't even really consider because, of course, I considered like race and skin tone, but age, because
Mhm.
your skin changes a lot
Yeah.
as you age.
Yep.
Weight, because that is a real difference in how the sensors can get through your skin. All of those things, we have to have like the
Yeah.
most diverse population possible to make sure that the claims we're making are true for the people who need it.
Yeah. That's incredible. And I'm so glad that there are people like you that love this because I can tell you're totally geeking out as you are telling me this with your big smile on your face. And I love that because I enjoy reading the research and having someone else do the research, and then I can benefit from the research
Yeah.
personally and professionally. But I'm not the one that wants to create the research
Yep.
studies and follow the patients and all of that. So I'm glad there are people like you.
Me too. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I feel like I've been so lucky to get to work on some really cool things and then get to see those brought to life out in the real world. Because it just takes a small, I mean, I'll keep saying it and it's so cliche, but I think people also forget that stuff is cliche for a reason. Like a small
Hmm.
change can revolutionize so many things.
Yeah.
We're working on watch sensors right now. One extra thing
Mm,
that that watch can do can save millions of lives. And we've seen that happen.
crazy.
Like that is realistic. And all it took was adding
Yeah.
a little algorithm to your watch. And now you can check your blood pressure. Now you can check your, oxygen, your heart rate.
Yeah.
You can get an ECG. Like, what?
Yeah. It's crazy. So
Yeah,
crazy. I love that. Yeah.
it's amazing.
There's a technology that came out for ED and it's called FirmTech. And it's a ring. They have one that's just like a cock ring for helping maintain the erections, but they
Right.
also have one that guys can wear overnight. And so it's not too tight so they can wear it overnight and it monitors their nocturnal erections. So you can see how much blood flow is going through. It's basically like a blood pressure or an EKG wave for your wiener.
Yeah.
And it's fabulous. And it really gives us some great data as to do you really have erectile dysfunction? Do you have maybe more of a psychogenic side of things? Is your blood flowing the way that we need
Right.
it to or not? And that really helps us in the clinic then determine what avenue we should go for treatment. So the
That is
technology
so
is like
cool.
blowing my mind that's coming out.
Yes, yes, I mean, we've really ramped
Mhm.
up. That's incredible, and I wonder, like, I'm
Yeah.
assuming that insurance isn't covering it right now. That
Of
kind of
course not.
like of course not. It
Yeah.
makes me so
Cuz it's
mad.
experimental.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's improving
Yeah.
people's quality of life.
Yeah.
A lot of the work that I do, like, in my mayoral and personal side is trying to
Mhm.
get legislation passed to make it easier to get technology approved by your insurance. We cannot keep
Mhm.
being in this backwards world. I mean,
Right.
because it's bad for everyone. It's bad for the patients, it's bad
It
for the
is.
hospitals, it's bad for the cost of healthcare if everybody's having to go to the ER
Mhm.
or the urgent care because
Yeah.
their dick doesn't work, like, they could just have the
Right.
ring, they could have that conversation with you,
Right.
they could probably share it via the EHR or something, and
Yep.
everything could be
Yep.
streamlined, or
Right.
have 6 office visits for some reason.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing to me how just backwards our insurance and our healthcare is. And again, a topic for another day because there's so much
Right.
that goes into that. But just so like listeners, like in the medical profession, we get it. We are just as frustrated with your insurance and our own insurance as you are. Having to tell an insurance company why I think medicine is better for a patient than another one that is just more expensive is amazing. Like, I can't believe that this is even a problem. And so, yeah, so that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But I
Yes.
agree with you. There are so many cool things that
Yes.
technology is bringing to health and wellness, and we need to get insurance to cover these or at
Yes.
least the HSAs and FSAs, which are a little bit easier to get to work with. But
Right.
there's so much stuff out there for pelvic pain, sexual dysfunction, different things like that that can really help.
And I mean, think about how long it takes to get new, like, diabetes technology approved.
Yeah,
And people aren't necessarily ashamed of having diabetes. We need people on the front lines
right.
fighting to have this cock ring approved, but you're going to have less people
Right.
willing to do it, you know?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And, like there are some really great quote unquote sex toys that we're trying to say more like sex wellness tools and trying to kind
Right.
of change that verbiage so that they can start to be covered because
Yes.
insurance isn't going to cover a toy. Right. And
Right.
so, but there really are these vibrations, the research, and maybe you can speak on this too, is showing that vibrations help with erectile dysfunction very early on, erectile dysfunction.
Right.
Later on, it doesn't do as much. But these vibrating cock rings and devices can actually improve your erections. And so it's not just for the fun and the
Right.
pleasure of it, although that's really great too.
I know. I mean, fun and pleasure, it's so, like, unneeded, it's not important. It's like, of
Right.
course it is, of course it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. I
that's
mean,
the kind of
that even
research.
goes back to erection medicines not getting covered.
Yeah,
It's just ridiculous.
it really is.
Well, I was thinking too about how like women and hormones and menopause is finally having its moment.
Yes.
But this is a huge thing for women. And
Yeah,
for men, because your daughter's going to go through it, your mother's going to go through it, your wife, if you have one, is going to go through it, things like that. And so,
absolutely.
it's important for everybody to understand. But we weren't even researching this, 30 years ago. And then 20 years ago, we got told that estrogen kills you and you better not use it. And now we know better. And it's like there are so many women y- that didn't get the care that they needed because
Yes.
there was this fear. And now we're finally getting where there's research that's showing it's not going to cause cancer. It's not going to cause blood clots. 99% of women are just safe for hormone replacement therapy. And yet insurance is still calling it experimental and not covering it. And it's like, come on.
Oh,
Like, we finally
come
have the
on.
research that shows that we can use this and it's good. And now our people can't afford it because it's not covered by
Right.
insurance because it's experimental.
It's It's really sad. It's sad on a number of levels, mostly because, like you said, people are suffering right now whose life
Mhm.
could be better for like 10 years after this if we
Mhm.
just let them get these products. But it's also sad because something that delays research is people not wanting to participate and it also
Mhm.
not being very sexy, right? Like menopause isn't very
Yeah.
sexy. When you're putting out that you're looking for participants or you're putting out that you have a new drug, people aren't necessarily excited about the menopause drug or something that helps with
Mhm.
that. Um, and I think a big part of that has to do with kind of another side of shame. So there's the one shame that for whatever reason is for everything that feels good, we should be ashamed of. The
Mm.
other part is stuff that everybody has to do we should be ashamed of if we don't like it. Like
Mhm.
having a baby really sucking, like being really hard and awful. Like you shouldn't talk about that. Everybody has to do it.
Right.
Going through menopause, don't talk about it. Everybody's had to every woman for all of time has had to
Mhm.
do it. Just we don't talk about it. There's no reason. That really delays everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to your point too, is getting the women involved in the research. So, from your
Yes.
perspective, with being involved in the research studies, how do you try and let people know about research that's going on right now? How do you try and get people involved? I'm sure it's different for every study, but just kind of some generals. Or where could women go and look for studies that are going on right now that they might volunteer to be a part of?
That's a really good question. So, of course, there's clinicaltrials.gov. Unfortunately, as I'm
Okay.
sure you know, it's a little bit overwhelming. Clinical researchers try, but most of the information on there is just not written at a reading level or like using terms that are easy for people to understand. And it's also not a very
Mhm.
pretty system. It does what it needs to do, but it's not pleasing to the eye, and so people aren't going to use it. Like it's on there, it's a really good tool, but most people aren't going to use it. However, there are a ton of clinical research, kind of like databases, whose whole job it
Mhm.
is to go and find clinical research studies and send them to their members. So there are a lot of those. I won't name any names because I have conflict of interest and all that stuff, but
Okay.
there's plenty. If you looked for them, they're out there. Also, I often like to partner with community partners. So your local, oh my
Mm.
gosh, if you have a really nice health department,
Huh.
ask them to go and see what is available for you guys. Because a lot of these studies not only need a more diverse population, but they also pay. And so they can be really
Mm.
useful for a number of reasons for people who might be in need at that time. So we partner
Yeah.
with churches and health departments and community centers and libraries to try to get flyers and information out there so that people know that it exists. You'll also, of course, see it on social media. There are whole Facebook groups dedicated to it, but mostly a lot of Googling to get you started. But do be careful. Like with anything, it's don't just give your information willy nilly. Make sure it's a legitimate website and legitimate trials. But there's a lot of really cool stuff out there that you have no idea. One of my friends in
Hmm.
Texas got a free tummy tuck because they were doing tummy tuck research. It's out there, guys. If you if you're interested in something, look for it. You never know what you'll
Yeah.
find.
No, that's amazing. I'm gonna go Google that in here in a little bit.
Right.
Right? Thanks for that tip. But no, I think that's great. And you're right. There are a lot of research studies that pay participants. I know that was a
Yes.
thing like when I was in college, people would go participate in them to get some money for
Yes.
college. Yeah,
Yes.
Christmas is around the corner. Go ahead and do some studies and pay for Christmas.
Do it. And we've moved a little bit of for a while, the institutional review boards, the IRBs, were and ethics committees and pharmaceutical companies were really worried about coercing people with pay.
Mm,
But we're getting away from that. And I think it's a really good thing because people should be compensated for their time. They should be
yeah,
compensated for being willing to try something that hasn't been approved yet. And so
yeah.
we're getting better with that, which I think is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I just love that there's research out there for so many vastly different topics. So go on Google, type in the topic that you're thinking of or the problem that you're dealing with, and put in research studies and see what comes up and go from there.
Yes, and 2 things. 1, they're also always looking for healthy volunteers in a lot of different studies. So
Mm,
you don't have to have a certain disorder. If you're passionate about, diabetes and you don't have diabetes, there might be some trials that are looking for healthy participants. So
okay.
that's a really cool way to do it. But
Oh,
also,
that's neat.
if you are passionate about something like that and you do have it, please look. A lot of these places, especially if they're more like foundations, don't have a lot of money to pay people for research, but they are compiling
Mm,
these amazing lists of information that could revolutionize treatment for that disorder. So I think about the Michael J. Fox Foundation and Parkinson's, for example.
hmm.
Like if Parkinson's runs in your
Yeah.
family, go on there. Like they'll take your information, and
Yeah.
even though it'll be just a little bit, they're going to add all of that together, and maybe we'll find something that we've been missing for all of these years that can really help
Yeah.
such a terrible disease get better.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. So you mentioned a little bit about being the mayor and kind of getting involved in kind of some of the legislature and stuff. I love that you're a mayor with
Yeah.
pink hair. And it's fantastic. That's great. So tell me a little bit more about being a mayor and how you impact your community and maybe those of us who aren't in a political position could get involved in our communities to kind of take away this shame and progress these conversations.
Yes. One, I'll start with I'm in Lanesboro, Minnesota, which is one of the most magical places in the world, I think. And so
Beautiful.
I understand that I have a real special situation. Not everybody's city is like this, though I think a lot of them could be. So I feel very lucky to have such an engaged community who's
Hmm.
always willing to kind of step up and move past any kind of discomfort that they feel because it's completely normal. And I think that's also something that maybe doesn't get talked about enough. It's normal to feel discomfort when things are new.
Hmm.
That initial reaction that you're
Yes.
having, going like, "Oh, I don't really like that." That's totally okay. It doesn't mean you can't
Hmm.
participate. It's okay to not like something for a second, and then for your second thought to be, "And I will help anyway." That's totally fine. Don't wait until you've, like, desensitized yourself to it enough that you don't have any little tingles.
Hmm.
It's okay to feel a little weird, and my community shows that all the time. We just had in June our first ever Pride event, and it was incredibly well received. and which is incredible, especially considering over 40% of our population is 55 and older.
Yeah.
And we are a rural community in Minnesota, like, it's huge,
Yeah.
and there are people like that where you are. So look for them
Mhm.
first. There are I can almost guarantee you, wherever you are, there is a group of people that is trying to make that place better. And so if you can
Mhm.
find them, you can kind of tap into that, and it won't feel like you have to do everything yourself. One.
Yeah.
Two, run for public office. If you have a problem, if you think that things aren't going right, and oh, I just wish somebody could be you. It really
Mhm.
could. It's not that hard. A lot of positions actually go unopposed. So it's just
Mm.
like one person who's kind of like, "Oh, okay," they put their hat in the ring. A lot of positions don't even have applicants. You can be on the
Yeah.
council, you can be on the board of something you care about, and you can take some ownership of the future of your community, which is really special. And
Yeah.
if you don't, then you only have yourself to blame when things don't work out.
Yeah. I love that. Just said in true political fashion. That's so great. Yes. Yeah, but no, it's true. And like I'm in a much more metropolitan area now. I mean, I grew up in rural Wisconsin
Yes.
and Minnesota, and I know where Lanesboro is. It's beautiful.
Yes. Thank
And
you.
but now I'm out in Annapolis, DC, Baltimore area. And, I'm probably not going to run for mayor because there are
Right.
much more qualified people in my area
Right.
to do that with our big
Right.
metropolitan area. So, but there are, like you said, committees, councils, boards, things like that, that certainly those of us who don't have that experience could be
Yeah.
a part of to still try and progress things and get this conversation more because it is so necessary. And I think, from the sex education in schools all the way through every patient I see at various ages and what they're going through, sexual health and wellness touches every aspect of our life.
Yes.
And the healthier we are in general, the better sex and fun and all of those things that we're going to have. But,
Yes.
for the longest time, sex ed was safe sex. Don't have sex till you're married, procreate when you have sex. And nothing was about pleasure. Nothing
No.
was about experimenting and enjoying your partner.
No.
So I think finding people that you can talk to in your community about educating others that these are important too. Your pleasure
Yeah.
that you get from sexual intercourse or self pleasure is huge in keeping your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, all of it.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think finding the niches, finding the groups where you can get involved in, if you're in an area that you can run for office and you have those qualifications, go for it. But yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and I think a couple things. One, if another way that people can help, which I don't think gets enough credit, is that if you have a real problem with some kind of progress, and you know that it's mostly just your feelings, keep it to yourself. A lot of
Hmm.
people, I'm really thankful for that kind of community in Lanesboro that might not have been pro pride, for example, but you can help your community sometimes by just being quiet, by just going,
Hmm.
"Well, I don't agree, and it's not my business." That is
Right.
huge. So if you're not ready to
Yeah.
go and do some other big thing, and you can just not get in somebody's way who is, that's also a big step. And I
Yeah.
also think that, yeah, talking about pleasure is so important. I think people really take it for granted. And I don't know
Hmm.
how we will eventually or ever kind of get out of that mentality that talking about the fact that sex feels good is weird.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but everybody knows that it does. What are we talking about? Like,
Right. Right.
and it would help so many people. Think about how many people
Hmm.
are having terrible sex for most of
Mm.
their lives because nobody told them it was
Yep.
supposed to be different. That's
Right.
sad.
Right.
That's
It
a tragedy.
is. It is. It's a tragedy. I agree. I agree. That is like my biggest point of all the time. Like that
Sure,
is a tragedy.
it
Everyone
is.
should have sex and have good sex and feel good about the sex they're having. I
Yes.
just think that it's so important, and we don't put enough emphasis on the pleasure that you should feel. And, from everything from a basic kissing your partner to full blown intercourse, penetration,
Yeah.
whatever, but all of it should feel good and be what you want. And you should not have shame in telling
Right.
someone it doesn't feel good, or this feels really good, do more of that, or whatever, and so I think just having those conversations between your partner and your friends and your family, and as it gets bigger and bigger, and being involved where you can and feel comfortable, that is how we make this movement go from shame to amazing pleasure.
Yes, that's the dream.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, what a fun conversation. We covered a whole bunch of different stuff today, but I love it.
Yes.
And I learned a lot, and you have such a great energy. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you so much for the invite. This was amazing, and I can't wait to see it and
You're
see more
welcome.
of the other good stuff you do.
Thank you so much. If anyone needs to plan a trip, feel free to plan a trip to Lanesboro. My
Please.
personal opinion is I don't go to Wisconsin and Minnesota in the winter anymore, so I would suggest a summer trip. But if you like snow
Right.
and cold weather, go during the winter.
It's very cozy. There's,
Yes.
you can snowmobile, you can snowshoe. We've got a ton of bed and
Yeah.
breakfast. You can be just like warm and cozy and stay inside. But otherwise, we'll
There
see
you
you in the spring.
go. Yeah, yeah, I am definitely it's so funny because I never go home to visit my family during the winter. I just refuse.
Oh,
The last time I was home in the winter, my youngest nephew was like not even 1. He was like 3 months old. He had surgery, so I went home. And he's
gosh.
now, I believe, 10. So
Fair. It's fair,
I am a
honestly.
summer girl. I am a summer girl for the Midwest.
I get it. I grew up in
Yes.
Mississippi, so I was super scared of the winter in Minnesota when I first got here.
Yeah.
I'm acclimated a little bit, but I don't blame you for not coming.
Yeah, no, it is beautiful if you are dressed right and you like the
Right.
winter sports and stuff, but for those of us that are sunshine lovers, it's a little too chilly.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for being on here. It was such a fun conversation. I loved it, and thank you so much. And everybody, go have some fun between the sheets. Thank you for joining us and exploring sexual health topics here on Between the Sheets. New episodes are available every Wednesday. Please subscribe and rate our podcast so we can reach more listeners. And don't forget to tell your friends, partners, and anyone who will listen about Between the Sheets. Send any comments, questions, or stories to podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. It's all one word, podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and go have some fun between the sheets.